Secret friends, unite!
Welcome to the Secret Friends Unite podcast 427. This is your guide to the geek side, and I'm one of your hosts, Todd Oxtra, coming from beautiful Savage, Minnesota, ready for a fun day of getting groceries. Joined
wow.
by
It's
Charlie
another
Cardin.
Pleasant Valley Sunday. Take the next verse. Don't let me down. Here in status symbol land. He's no fun. He's no fun. No, I'm the other pillar of suburbia. He's going to get groceries. I'm going to mow the lawn. That's what we're doing after this. We're living the dream, y'all, and doing laundry. So is that four? That's three. What's the fourth one? What's the fourth pillar of Pleasant Valley Sunday? Cleaning. Yeah, I don't do that. Laundry is cleaning for me. Clean clothes. There we go.
Charlie just lives in a world of filth. He doesn't clean.
Oh my God. The floors are black. No, I love it. So yeah, no, it's Sunday, and boy, do we have some fun stuff to talk about today. But we wouldn't be talking about much if we weren't talking about our Patreons. That is right. We do have some wonderful folks who support us financially, morally, and ethically, and just a big And we never like to go on without giving them their love. We do have Jamie Prinky over on the Best Buds level of our Patreon, and our BFFs, as always, the stellar Nias family, Sean, Stella, and Henry. My friend and yours, Missy Merchant, frequent contributor to the show, and her pal, Andy Milliken. We are very grateful for what you guys do for us. If you'd like to learn more about our Patreon, please do visit patreon.com/Secret Friends Unite. Learn all about what we have to offer, different ways that you can support us. And if you like the show and, financial support is not your deal, please give us a 5-star rating on the streamer of your choosing to let us know you care. Let us know you're out there. Let us know what you think about the show. So, yeah. And
absolutely. It's our Patreon's doing great things. Charlie, you just had a great interview with basically a puppeteer from
Dave Barkley.
That was a great get. Really cool. And it wasn't necessarily tied. So if you see that with the team, it's not Star Trek focused. This was just all geekdom, Dark Crystal, that stuff. So that's really amazing. And I believe that was Missy who arranged that. So definitely check out our page, because you can always see kind of a not a trailer, but you can see a snippet, a preview of all of those Patreon things we're doing if you're not a member. So if there's something you like, jump in.
Got to whet your appetite for that stuff. Yeah, we have. That was the last interview we had in the can, so we are looking at other ones in the future. But I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. Missy she's a member of the family. She's the one who really makes that possible. So in addition to being a Patreon, she's content creator, and she also does a few of my different shows with me over that we also offer. So anyway, not to drone on too long about the Patreon, Todd, you have outdone yourself with this week's cover. From December of 1977, we have the 27th issue of Ghost Rider. I'm assuming volume 1. It's probably gone on to have many, many other volumes. But this is a villain I've heard of. But I love this cross-up because on this cover, we have Ghost Rider himself, of course. We have the villain, who I'll let you talk about. Then we have Hawkeye and the Two-Gun Kid. Now, what's funny about this, and I'll let you dig into telling people about the Manticore if you've done any research, which I haven't, is that this arc where Hawkeye was, I'm assuming, trapped in the past, was revisited in the early issues of the West Coast Avengers, because the team gets trapped in the 18th century, and they're very referential to the fact that prior to the West Coast Avengers being in that point of time, maybe 10 or 15 years prior, that is when Hawkeye was trapped with Two-Gun Kid and the Kid Colt or Red Wolf, or I don't know. You know what? It's been an Al Milgram long time. So I don't remember
the definitely positive identity of the Western characters, including Native Americans, were always treated gently by Marvel.
Yes, in the 70s in particular. Yes, exactly. So, all right. Exactly. Well, tell us about the Manticore. What'd you find out? Because I'm drawing a blank. The name is familiar.
Yeah. So the Manticore is a great looking villain, by the way. He's basically a beast with a face with lots of metal.
It's like a rat.
Things. And the Manticore is a fantastical creature. Essentially, it's a half lion, half scorpion creature that's poisonous and kills people. But for Marvel, their take on it, it was basically a brand corporation battle suit. The identity of the Manticore was hidden. And the HellCat uniform was in the hands of Patsy Walker, who at the time was working with the Avengers, that also created that suit as well. The Manticore first appeared. This is kind of weird. This is weird. This is his first appearance. Manticore first appeared at Cheerio Dude's Ranch, where he was spying on the two heroes, Clint Barton and the Two Gun Kid, who were working as employees. That's a weird cut.
And were they in the past, or am I referring to a different arc?
No, because if you can see in the picture, the Two Gun Kid is on a motorcycle. So this is modern times.
So he did. Okay. So why does the Manticore look like a giant rat? He's like the Rat King, but with the metal bits and let's face it, if he's created by the Brand Corporation and you don't know his identity, is that very good branding?
Yes, was created by Jim Shooter and Don Perlin. So that super crew right there. They knew how to make wacky things, put a name on it that sounded cool, and really don't even care about the rest. Just like, we made a thing. Go forth.
He's the Rat King. Well, anyway, someone who I know could slay a Rat King in her sleep, and I believe at 123 years of age, she sleeps maybe 17 minutes a day. You don't need sleep when you're that old. You know, you're burning on Ovaltine and prune juice. It's incredible. I am, of course, talking about Madam Webb. That is our senior news correspondent. She's down at the corner of Hollywood and Vine with all the latest scoops. Let's go.
Now it's time for Madam Webb's rumors and news. Take it away, boys.
Thank you, Madam Webb. I believe after this adventure, you actually went on a blind date with the Manticore. You were on that TV show called The Love Connection, where with all those suitors. Yeah, it did not go so well. They had video proof that you essentially tried to steal someone else's silverware off their table, and it just went downhill from there.
That's bad. You know, there's enough silverware for everyone. Let it go. So anyway, first up top, we got a pair of trailers. And I'm gonna let you tackle this first one because I got a vibe right away. And then also as they're like, and you know, it's rolling the 20th Century Studios, and then there's some other stuff, and I'm like, this is probably a video game. So anyway, go ahead.
Yes, so Five Nights at Freddy's.
No. The other one. I was talking about the other one.
The Creator. Sorry. Yeah. I got them out of order. My bad. The first thing we're going to talk about, we have two trailers this episode. The first one's called The Creator. This is a new sci-fi film by the director of Rogue One, Gareth Edwards. And it's starring John David Washington, who is Denzel Washington's son. And he's been in a lot of things. He's really become a great actor outside of his own father.
Definitely look familiar. Wasn't he in the latest Candyman? Wasn't he the star?
He was in Tenet and a few other things.
Which I still have not seen.
I haven't either. I need to watch that.
That was going to be the film that was going to save the post-COVID box office, and it
That's true.
Yes.
Yes. Exactly. Yes. I do need to see it because I really like Nolan's films, so that one is on my list.
Okay.
But the trailer dropped for The Creator, and they essentially lead it off that AI has become essentially the great enemy, similar to like Terminator. So it's not exactly a new concept, but it's always the way you tell the story. And this is essentially humanity in the middle of their battle to save themselves from AI. It basically gets a crack troop together to find out the source of the AI and essentially take it down. And that's when you get into the twist. The creator is actually a child.
Oh man.
And
is it a video game? Just to quantify it.
No, the creator. This is all new creation. Which I love the fact that we're getting something that looks very cool and cinematic and just broad in the sci-fi lens. Very rarely, you're not getting many original things. You're getting a lot of like sequels or reboots or things like that. And this is original. And the director, has done great things. The cast looks really good. Now the story, it could fizzle or not, considering AI in the marketplace right now. You're hearing all about AI. It's going to steal jobs. It's going to replace actors, replace writers. And it's going to be interesting.
I can't find agreement in this because, again, we're going along and all right, AI, cool, there's explosions, blah, blah. And then you're like, and the MacGuffin is a kid. And I'm like, Todd, I'm surprised that you warmed up to this. That's one of the things you hate the most is kids in peril, because that's what the last half of this trailer turned into, was just like, gotta rescue the kid. Somebody got the kid. And I'm like, oh. So it didn't grab me. And we're getting this in September. No, it didn't grab me up until, because I'm like, okay, AI, and they bombed something. So yeah, it looks exactly like the Terminator, and that's cool. I like the concept. But yeah, as soon as we found out that, there's this thing locked in a vault, and were they trying to keep something out, or trying to keep something in, or trying to keep us out? Or they open it and it's a kid sitting there watching TV, and I'm like, oh. You just lost me. I'm similarly sick of it's what you always said about like Wesley Crusher, or I'm trying to think of other Boxy from the old Battlestar Galactica, or Jake Sisko. You throw a kid in the mix so that they can get kidnapped and be the central part of the plot line. So that part of it lost me. Looks wonderfully explosion-y, and they spent their money on their CGI, and it will no doubt end in a big blue sky hole a la Marvel Comics. But yeah, the kid in peril thing, I kind of checked out when I saw that. But anyway, one person's take doesn't mean that it doesn't look exciting, doesn't mean that it might not. But yeah, I right away thought, because they were rolling through the 20th Century Studios and it said like CNET 1. And I figured, that's probably somebody who makes video games. This is like a video game movie. But interested to hear that I was wrong. It might be wildly original. And you know what? I might see it and love it and be able to forgive the kid in peril thing. But that, I was just like, that's just, to me, that's one of the more foregone tropes about any action adventure thing. And again, I was quoting examples, or like Newt in Aliens, kid in trouble becomes the driving part of the last part of the plot of that movie. I just, like I said, that's one thing that I know that you're not crazy about, but obviously there were other parts of this that won you over more, and I can respect.
Yeah, I think the way it looks, the way they're dealing with this, and it looks like it's also going to be two societies against each other, because you can see these AIs that are basically in these bodies are living and creating their own society as well.
They had the big like
hole in their head.
Are attacked. Yeah,
yeah. And
then they do show some horrific stuff, like a bunch of less sophisticated AI robots in a compactor. And did they say, is this from not Gareth Edwards? Is he directing it?
He's the director. Yeah, the director from Rogue One.
Yeah, that's what kind of tipped me off. So anyway, September 29, I think it said. So
yeah,
I would not be surprised if we went to go see it, because that's right at the end of before we get into the last quarter, which is like Halloween movies, and then some Oscar bait. I think we typically get in November and December. So probably go see it. So one thing I feel fairly confident that I'll want to skip is Five Nights at Chucky's. Billy, don't be a hero. This was a particular favorite of my son Jackson, and when he was probably way too young, I know that he got in trouble because I was with him and it was his birthday and he picked something out of the toy store, and it was one of those things. And then I heard from his mother, well, he's not allowed to watch that or this and that. So I'm like, I get that, because I think this is absolutely, absolutely horrifying. And then I saw him either played an online game or we're watching videos or something on YouTube or something when he was over at my house once. So I have a more than a passing familiarity with it. And I kind of get the vibe out of it. So I watched the trailer, and it's Josh Hutcherson from the Hunger Games. Mm-hmm. And I feel like this is the first time in a long time I've seen him in anything. Can you imagine him in anything since that? He must have been in something since the Hunger Games.
Yeah, he was in that series on Hulu, Future Man.
Yeah.
Other than that, I don't know, but I've always enjoyed him and things. I think he's pretty, decent kid. He went from a kid actor to an adult actor. Yeah,
he's doing okay. But yeah, this is, I don't know. What do you think? Is hard horror, or maybe somewhere in the middle? Not like that Winnie the Pooh horror movie. I don't know if that already came. No. Could have.
Yeah, I don't know did it have a rating? I didn't know if there was a rating tied to this or not. I'm looking for it.
I don't understand it.
Yeah, this is going to be on Peacock and theaters at the same time. Similar with what they did with Halloween. They did the tiered release. Yeah. This is coming out October 27th, which is just dumb. Why would you not have this October 5th? So you get a couple more weeks, because
that is people. Yeah, that is a staggeringly poor marketing decision, because if your focus is horror and people think about, the month of people like, oh my God, it's Halloween season. And then I know people who get, super psyched for that whole, yourself included, get super psyched for the whole Halloween thing in October. So why would you waste it? Do they think people are going to be so excited about oh, I have a Halloween playlist that I watch on Halloween after I, hand out candy or I take my kids out or whatever. I sit down and if everybody's in bed, I'm going to watch a horror movie, but they're going to jump to a classic, I would think, as opposed to something brand new, or go to the theater. I don't know. Unless, obviously, October 27 is a Friday, which would then put Halloween on a Monday or a Tuesday this year. I don't know. I have to look.
Yeah, which is always the worst. You never want Halloween on like a Wednesday because it's I can't even enjoy myself one day or the other. Kids got to go to school the next day. There's no parties, so you party the week before. But this is going to be a PG-13 movie, so it can probably hit because this franchise. If nobody knows what this is, basically it's Chuck E. Cheese. But the robots go crazy at night. It's a security guard, and you are that security guard at the Chuck E. Cheese called Freddy Fazbear. And it's just like what you think, and they are killing machines. And It's all about trying to survive the night as a security guard. And that's exactly what we're getting here. Five Nights at Freddy's started as a video game. It's kind of become a huge thing. A lot of it is because people play this game online and people watch them through Twitch and things like that. So you can experience the player, the reactions and things like that.
Right.
My son actually played the most recent one. He liked it because there were some things you could do with the game, the way you had to use the cameras, and they introduced some new things for it. But it has a huge, audience from the games, there's lore, apparently a lot of lore, which because you get that where there's more to it than just what it shows, and there's a lot of merch. So this is kind of a big deal.
It's the merch is what stung me way back when, because it was like whatever. I mean, I just again, this is a total miss for me, but clearly there's an audience for it. And if people play the game, and this is going to be a draw, who's putting this out? Do we know kind of who's putting it out, where it'll probably land?
Well, it's at Peacock. It's on Peacock.
Oh, yeah.
It's a Universal film on Peacock. Yeah.
So people will still be able to, it's great when to watch with the lights out or whatever. But yeah, not dropping it, at the beginning of Shocktober because I think it's AMC that has 31 days of Halloween, and they got a different movie every night. You think following that? So I don't know, Todd.
You would.
If we could solve all the marketing issues of our time, we would be doing that for a living instead of putzing about doing this.
Video games do the same thing, Charlie. They bring out their spooky Halloween games, and they it's out on Halloween. I'm like, what are you doing? People are going to be trick or treating, watching movies. They're not going to be playing a video game on just that one day. So it's a missed opportunity.
Think about it. All right, moving along. I think you might have given me a bummer link because your next one says something about. Oh, you said something about. Oh, do you have two here?
No, but we can just talk to that one.
Okay,
let's talk about that one. Yeah, I just added an extra commentary to the link. Yes.
So what's Disney Plus got going on? What's this story?
So Disney is doing. Bob Iger came back to Disney to fix all the things that Bob Chapek did that actually Bob Iger actually did. So it's almost like Bob Chapek became like the bad guy because everything Iger decided to do.
Bad, Bob. What about Bob? What about Bob?
Well, Bob's like, I'm doing all these things and I'm leaving and I'm retiring on a high note. And like Bob Chapek's like, well, shit, now we're out of money. So we got to make some money. So I'm going to make some bad things because I'm the bad guy to make some more profit.
I'm going to make some bad decisions.
Yeah. And now Bob Iger is coming in to do some more cleanup. And that's exactly what's happening. Disney streaming profitability is kind of funky space right now. Disney's going to need some cash because they want to buy Hulu. Because of that, they have to do some things which honestly on when you look at an article like, why are they doing that? Don't they own it? Well, apparently there are costs with Disney's catalog. So essentially Disney just can't show their things for free and not have to pay out people in residuals and other payments still. There are still some legacy things.
Which is clearly, at the heart of the WGA strike that's going on and what's birching into the actor strike. Same thing. So this is clearly a cost control measure to stop having to write those checks.
Yeah. So what they're doing is they are pulling their content. So we saw HBO Max do that already. They pulled some of their content where it was essentially costing them money long term to continue to show it versus it was already owned and they didn't have to pay anything. So the same thing with Disney. So Disney will remove over 50 shows from Disney Plus and Hulu this month. And it's not just legacy content. A lot of this brand new stuff that isn't been out that long on Disney Plus. And some of the big things that, we can mention are Willow is probably the biggest one. Willow, the series, was a big announcement. It was going to be all, this big thing, hopefully redeeming Willow. Probably didn't have a cheap budget, and they made it. And it essentially no one cared for it. So it was kind of a bad situation. But Disney did a lot of these, they did a lot. And they weren't always the highest quality. So they spent a lot of money to do a lot of things, and quantity over quality rarely pays off. And I mean, the list of things that are coming off, most of these are newer things, but some are more one-offs you've never heard of. But even within that, we have Artemis Fowl, which is a big property where it's licensed. Yeah, I never watched it, so I guess I'm bad to that. We've got the Mighty Ducks. The Mysterious Benedict Society, Turner and Hooch, Big Shot, Diary of a Future President, The World According to Jeff Goldblum, Marvel's Project Power, Marvel Voices Rising, Cheaper by the Dozen remake, the one and only Ivan. I mean, I could go on and on. I'm like, a lot of things that was a thing.
Absolutely nothing that I watched, but for the things that I did that I didn't care for. So
and that's Disney.
I certainly feel bad, for the people who we're going to get residuals for this stuff, because that sucks. That's exactly what the WGA strike is about, is, finding ways to unfortunately stiff these people, and they're not putting up with it. And, even though we as consumers of entertainment are like, oh, well, this is, going to trash next year's TV schedule. This is about people's livelihood. You know what I mean? And this is a dirtier move to take away, their residuals for stuff that's already out there. So this is a bummer, but flip side of it, Disney does have to find a way to make Disney Plus profitable, or it won't exist. They'll go find profit. They'll go find profit elsewhere.
I mean, it's really about they're going to have to increase. They said they're going to already increase subscription costs again, which is not something we're not used to. I mean, and it goes across Hulu too. The only thing I would say, Hulu is doing the same thing. They're dropping Why the Last Man, which is something I love the comic.
That's a bummer. We really enjoyed that. That sucks. But I thought I had already heard, or I thought I had already heard it had been yanked. So, but it was canceled. But
now it's being yanked. So all these shows, it's like, and I think that's the bigger problem, is that in the old days, you could say, well, at least they made a DVD release or a Blu-ray release. They aren't even doing that with Disney Plus.
It just doesn't exist. It goes away. Oh, that show Everything's Trash, which was kind of a raunchy comedy. We enjoyed that, but oh well. Bye.
Yeah, so I don't know where you're going to be able to ever see these things again, because I know people say, "Oh, bring back digital media, bring back physical copies and things like that." I'm like, the audience for a lot of these things is so small. They can't make a print run small enough to do it. So I don't know if there's a choice.
Not profitably. Yeah, if it wasn't put out, and those spaces, in particular in any retail store, just continue to shrink. And it's not profitable, obviously, to print them on demand, because, like you said, they got to do a run. Okay, we're going to make 100,000 of these or 1 million of these copies of, Wakanda Forever, because people want to buy discs. But meanwhile, that space at a Target or a Walmart or a Best Buy just continues to shrink, and they're bringing out, physical, they're bringing out, physical items, collectibles, and whatever it is, or electronics to, something that you can't stream if you don't have something to stream it with or on to. So that becomes more of the focus. So yeah, that's tough, and I certainly hope it's something that this WGA strike resolves, but what it will result is in less content, but that's it can only be supported by people who pay for it to be created, which goes right back to the piracy conversation, which we don't need to have, because we're very, very clear on where we stand on that on this show, without a doubt.
I'm a firm believer, if something's available to buy it. If it's not available for purchase, I don't know what you do then. It's like, you missed your boat. I mean, but it sounds like they're going to put a lot of this content and sell it to those they call it fast. It's free advertising supported services.
Like
Tubi. Crackle,
Pluto, Crackle,
Freebie, yes, all those things.
Freebie on Amazon. That's cool. I have, and I know our mutual friend John, our other original secret friend, he's like, man, I cannot handle commercials. It's against my religion, blah blah. I grew up in the industry. I don't care about commercials, and they're even easier to ignore in the modern age by muting your TV and looking at your phone or going to the bathroom just like you did in the old days with commercials. It doesn't bother me none. I don't reach out and embrace it. I don't want the commercial-free version of Disney Plus and Hulu and HBO or Max as it is in a couple of days here, because I still enjoy not having commercials. But if it's the only way to watch something, like when we did like when we watched Buck Rogers for our Patreon, my Patreon segment of the Facts of Geek Life, it was on Tubi. We watched it that way. The commercials were on, and I muted them, and I worked on my notes because I was taking notes for our show. It doesn't matter, because again, the bill
watching a movie with commercials kind of sucks because movies were never meant to be that way. So I can understand true. It's like, but if it's the only way you can watch it, totally makes sense. So we'll have to stay tuned to see where these things show up. But absolutely. I think that is, if you've got content and you can still sell it in another way to make money versus, hey, it's Disney Plus. You're not buying Disney Plus for these type of shows.
Exactly.
You can probably get more money out of that. Still pay people however they need to be paid, but you're still making money off of it.
It's just a very firm reminder, and I should probably go through what's left in my garage to hang on to those physical copies, particularly of older things. You know what I mean? Those old DVDs and stuff. If it's a movie you really love, and I had this with the movie The Warriors, which is an old like neo gang punk movie from the 70s. I wanted to watch it because I'm kind of on a New York City kick recently, Todd, because I was sending you earlier this week, this is the real location of Avengers Mansion, and I sent you a screen cap from MapQuest or from Google Maps, or this is the real place where Peter Parker's apartment was. So I'm kind of kicking it about New York City these days, and I wanted to watch that movie. Used to be available on streaming as a freebie. Now I have to pay to rent it. So I had to come down here into my studio where I have my old discs and because I own the disc, and find the disc and watch it on my disc player, which is a huge pain in the ass. But you stop to think, 10, 15 years ago, this is all we had. How quickly we forget that not everything can be available with the one touch of a button. It's silly.
There's a solution a lot of people do. They basically create a server where they rip their discs and they put it on. They basically have it so it can stream to your TVs. Plex, exactly. You're right, exactly right. So I did that with a couple of mine because I'm like, I don't want to break out a disc player. Disc player is going to be harder and harder to find. Do you have one available? Do you have one set up? So it's like maybe that's a good solution to do. And a lot of people do it. And there's some easy ways to do it. If you have questions, it's legal if you own the disc. You're just having it out there.
I dabbled with Plex once upon a time, but maybe you and I could talk about that offline.
Yeah, sure.
I wouldn't mind doing something like that. All right, moving on. Oh, within that, Todd, the famous death of something that you and I predicted was going to die, that would be the Star Wars cruise. The Star Wars cruise that wasn't a cruise, right?
Yeah, Galactic Star Cruiser was a unique experiment that, yes, this came out during Bob Chapek's reign, but this was planned during Bob Iger's because these things take years, maybe even decades to get moving. So this was essentially a 2-day voyage that really wasn't a voyage, where you're going on a Galactic Star Cruiser as a guest. It was essentially, think about it this way. Best way to put it this way. This was like being at a Renaissance festival, but for 2 days as a guest, and no one ever broke character, and you are part of the story. So this is everyone's dream.
It's like it's a holodeck in Star Trek parlance. It's the
absolutely. And you do not leave the site. It's all locked in. You feel like you're all going into space. You eat your meals. There's a cast that is treating you like a guest who is interacting with you in character. 2 days, all inclusive, everything set, and you are getting essentially 48 hours of entertainment. There's nothing else like this in the world. So it's very hard to say somebody else did it better because nobody else has done this.
Well, and they tried it, and what was the experience? Like, how many people actually got to go? Like, how long was it open? Like 6 months or 9 months?
It was open 18 months. And obviously poor timing because now we were in post-COVID. We're also in economy's kind of crazy. So it's not exactly a great foray experience. And this is what the problem was. It was $4,000 for a room,
right?
But you could go with 4 people. So essentially you could say for a grand for 2 days of entertainment with 4 of your closest friends or family of 4, it might be worth it. But if you only had 2 people,
$2,000.
That's $2,000.
So that's a big vacation for 2 days, without a doubt. And then all the other associated costs with getting there. And this was in Disney in Florida or California?
This is in Disney World. I believe it was in California.
I can never keep the land versus the world.
Oh, here it is. I was totally wrong. $4,800 for 2 adults, $6,000 for 3 adults and 1 kid. So I was completely wrong. So even more expensive.
So now we're less skeptical about why it didn't. I mean, that's
yeah.
You know, April and I do the Star Trek cruise, which is a week, and the costs are not far off of that, but it's a week.
So yeah, it was a cost thing. It was the wrong place, wrong time. It was a unique experiment. I know originally it got some negative publicity for what it looked like, but the people that went on this gave it really high marks for
that's great.
What it was like. But some people said it still didn't feel like it was worth that cost.
Right.
So, but there is thoughts that this may turn into more of an experience where you get a meal or an afternoon or something, break it out so you can still experience it, so they can still use the idea of it, but make it more bite-sized so people can experience it. Maybe $300 for like a premium meal experience like I've done before with places and that could be something to say, I can afford that versus like a lightsaber versus $300. Everybody wants this, like, we're going to have an experience and that's worth $300.
Right. So we'll see. That would be interesting. Yeah, those costs are pretty crazy. So, all right, cool. Yeah. What else we got?
Oh boy. So we've got some announcements about more Marvel shows coming out when they're coming out. Loki's coming out in October, which is later than I thought it was going to come out, but obviously that's following Secret Invasion, which comes out next month in June.
Yes.
It'll be interesting with Loki how they're going to manage Jonathan Majors, because as of right now, no one is talking about him all, but they're hoping maybe that's why by October they'll have an idea of what they're going to do with Jonathan Majors, either keep him around or say we're going to go a different way. And by the way, Kang looks different now.
Yeah, well, recasting is done all the damn time, and for reasons that are much less scandalous than this.
Yes, not wanting to pay Terrence Howard would be one way.
That's definitely less scandalous than a guy who is mixed up and potentially mixed up in domestic abuse. Nobody wants wants that around. So, so we're getting Echo. Which spins off of Hawkeye in November, just after Thanksgiving. But in kind of an uncharacteristic move, in a very Netflix kind of move, we're getting, and I don't know if it's 6 or 8 episodes. Probably they usually do 6. I think 6.
Yeah,
they're dumping them all at once, like boom, here we go. And this has raised some speculation amongst the tail wagging the dog that maybe the show isn't so great. And as a matter of fact, I tagged a second article on here that I called him the Big F. Kevin Feige reportedly thought the show was, quote, unreleasable prior to reshoots. That's stone cold coming from the guy who heads up your studio. That doesn't fill me with a lot of confidence. Not that obviously we're going to watch it, but it's like, to the world at large, you're taking a really very unknown character, which to me was introduced in the Hawkeye series, though to people who are more Hawkeye devotees rather, who follow the comics. I know a guy, my buddy Rob O'Neill, is a big Hawkeye fan and a Hawkeye cosplayer because he's an archer. That's a hobby of his. I wasn't at all familiar with character. Thought she was plenty impressive in Hawkeye. Hawkeye was very enjoyable, but I wouldn't have targeted that for a spinoff in the slightest. And this absolutely convinces me that this is not going to be good. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and some people said this might be an experiment to see can Disney Plus play around with their release schedule, how they do it. I don't know the benefit to anyone by dropping all episodes at once.
Well, because they make it kind of plain here, but it's not for a positive reason. What's suggested in one of these articles is that, hey, if we drop everything at once and it sucks,
we can move on.
We get a week or so of bad publicity, people aren't talking about it for 2 months.
That's
talking
true.
about, episode 5 was so much worse than episode 4. You get people who start it and then they're like, oh, this is too crappy, I don't want to keep watching it. Or they watch the whole thing and they grouse about it a bit and then we move on. So yes, it's a Band-Aid rip on what could be a shitty show, unfortunately. Fortunately or unfortunately.
And I think this is going to go, and you're going to see, I think we've heard discussions like there's going to be more quality over quantity. So there's probably going to have to be some discussions about who really deserves a show versus everybody. Right. And then the frequency of when those drop. Exactly. Especially when they add in the Fantastic Four and X-Men and all these characters. Yeah, then you got, then it's like, if you have a character that really finds a win, if we don't see them for another 4 years, that's kind of frustrating, right? You don't get to revisit them. Yeah.
So rather to use the films to complement the shows instead of just like, and now we're gonna, start a whole show-averse. And the argument is like, well, what if people don't have Disney Plus? Yeah, people have Disney Plus. If you're somebody who is a big Marvel file and you really follow this kind of stuff, yes, you have Disney Plus. And other whatever. So
you can ultimately now, I think at the point where, because the releases will become less frequent, you can ditch Disney Plus for a couple of months if you only like the Marvel or the Star Wars,
right?
Because those aren't going to come out as frequently, I think, because of those things. So then it's like, okay, I don't care about the catalog as much as some people do.
I couldn't tell you that I looked into that catalog, but again, I don't have kids at home, so there could be kids that are like, especially little kids say, hey, I want to watch Encanto for the 5,000th time. Hey, that's something that's easy. That again, we talked about not having to deal with discs and stuff. You just, here's Encanto, boop. You're not wearing it out the way that April famously tells me with our daughter when she was a kid, before, my stepdaughter, before we ever met, that she went through, April had to buy the Toy Story tape, cassette, VHS tape, probably 2 or 3 times because it got worn out, So yeah, same thing. There's a kid in this day and age that wants to watch whatever, what's the Encanto, I think even Mark has talked about that.
Absolutely.
We put Encanto on for the 5,000th time, that works. But yeah, for people like you and me who are like, hey, I tune in for the Star Wars or the Marvel, if I didn't already have it set up on it, I have the bundle. It's funny, I have that Hulu bundle. Great example. I have the Hulu Disney ESPN bundle. I've never turned on ESPN because I'm not a sports guy. But then again, Hulu is likely to cease to exist. I think that's the latest line because it's getting folded into Disney in the US as it is elsewhere in the world, because
well, they said they'll keep that Hulu Disney Plus separately and a combination, so you can, if you don't want the Hulu stuff, but they'll have one combined, and hopefully by doing that, and you don't need ESPN anymore, you can just get the Disney Plus and Hulu. That might save you some money. Hopefully that's the whole point. If it's not, you're not saving any money, what's the point then anyways?
So anyway, we will find out about that just after Thanksgiving, if Echo, and we'll be obviously here to talk about it because we'll watch it, we'll be like so anyway, this next story kind of ties into something that I'll talk about in the Geek Easy, because I started reading The Amazing Spider-Man again. I picked it up with the latest volume. I had read the number 1, and this was from back last year. I don't know how often they're publishing. I feel like when I was looking at the dates, because I'm now on issue 4 or 5, which I'll talk about, that it's from like maybe 18 months ago, but they're talking about issue 26, and there's a big nasty spoiler this week. Spoiler alert if you're a reader, but since this was spoiled everywhere, you probably have heard about it, that they're going to kill off, and so weird it's not happening in this character's own title. Amazing Spider-Man is going to kill off Kamala Khan's Ms. Marvel character, which makes no sense to me, with that character going to be starring in its own film on the being part of a triad of characters that's starring in a film in November. So I'm lost on this. What's going on?
There are some rumors. So yeah, I don't even know if I'm so far a loop of like who actually has an ongoing series right now, who doesn't. Because they keep canceling and then reintroducing the series. Like, I don't know, this is probably ASM's 3rd or 4th volume, 5th volume, 6th volume.
You are closer to 9 or 10.
Okay, so they keep
realistically 6 or 7, I would say, if you were to go back and look at it.
So you'll see like how many more number 1s can they do, and I think what I've heard with Miss Marvel, they're killing her off to essentially bring her back through Krakoa and then reestablish her as a mutant, and also reduplicate her powers that are in the MCU rather than embiggen, which I think is a huge mistake.
Well, and again, this really rubs me the wrong way. So the title is currently written by Zeb Wells, and the art is John Romita Jr., who is a heritage ASM artist. He was an ASM artist back in the early 80s, so big time. But they're teasing this major event in issue 26, which comes out, it's still for a couple of months now, I think. It's not out now, but they're teasing is the most shocking event to happen in Spider-Man in 50 years, referring to the 1973 death of Gwen Stacy. No. Especially what you just described. It's complete horseshit.
It's not even one of his. It's not even a Spider-Man character.
Right. I mean, I wasn't around in 1973, nor was I reading Spider-Man comics till the late 80s when I was 10 years old. But that death was very shocking, and it really did stick. Even though we saw Gwen come back as a clone and die and go back, and then an alt universe version of her was the Spider Totem who became Spider Gwen or Spider Woman or Ghost Spider, whatever it is you want to call her, who's a major character now that we're seeing in this summer's into the now I can't remember what they call it, Edge of the Spider-Verse. What is the Spider-Man movie called? It's the Spider-Verse movie that comes out this summer, the animated film, which the tickets just went on sale today.
It Beyond the Spider-Verse? No. Enter was the first movie, right?
I think this is Into. Oh God, this is so embarrassing. You have to look at our movie bracket. But anyway,
I'm looking it up right now.
Tickets for that tickets for that are on sale, and it comes out in June. And I know tickets for Indiana Jones go on sale on Monday. And we're not talking about Indiana Jones.
Okay, Into was 2018. Yep. Across is 2023.
There we go.
And then there is a follow-up movie. I can't remember what the last movie, because there's another movie following this that already has a title.
Into, Through,
Across,
Out of the Spider-Verse.
Yes.
So it's kind of like walking through a door into a door. No, that's not good.
Maybe Beyond the Spider-Verse, Across, Beyond. Yeah.
So this is obnoxious in my opinion. They liken it back to what I thought was a really great storyline during one of Dan Slott's runs on Amazing Spider-Man, where Peter Parker died, and his cloned body, Otto Octavius died. And his consciousness was preserved in a little robot that jumped into Peter Parker's body. And that's how we got to Superior Spider-Man. And then that ended when a clone body of Peter's then got his consciousness again. And he was, the Superior Octo Spider. I have a figure on my shelf. Now I can't remember. But
Superior Spider-Man. Yeah.
Yes. So, and that was good, and it was exciting, and you got to understand in that now 61-year history of the Amazing Spider-Man, there's going to be a lot of these comings and goings, but it's obnoxious to say that this is a significant death when you just described to me how it's going to be immediately turned around. This sucks.
That's just a guesstimate, but I mean, not a character that's this popular, beloved is not going to stay dead, and I just hate that the MCU is changing the comics.
Agreed.
I don't love it when they do that. I'd rather have them be separate entities, and the MCU funnel ideas from the comics to make a great version of them. I mean, the MCU can be a unique version. It doesn't have to. I mean, we got Ultimates Sam Jackson because of that comic. And then that's how we got Sam Jackson, not because Sam Jackson was always going to be Nick Fury. It was because they put him as Nick Fury in the Ultimates, and it fed that. Yeah.
It would be, in a perfect world, it would be nice if they could really differentiate the fact that it's two totally different audiences. There's a comics audience that goes to see the movies, and then there's just an audience that sees the movies, and you don't have to make it does not have to be the one size fits all baseball cap. You know what I mean?
Yep.
With the little snaps on the back. It would be okay if they would acknowledge that there are two separate audience segments and just kind of let them be. But you know what? Because money, we're gonna be like, oh, and now you can read more ongoings in the comics about blah blah. So this is a bummer to me. As I said, in rereading ASM, which I'll talk about obviously very briefly at this point in the Geek Easy. I've just really started again, but this doesn't fill me with a lot of excitement about Zeb Wells' run. But anyway, that's that. So that is the end of the news. Todd, time to get out that Fuber app, the Feeble Uber app. Maybe we'll even get Madam Webb as our driver this time. That was terrifying last time, wasn't it? We're going down to Scugtown, Nastyville. The Geek Easy awaits. Talk about what we're enjoying. Let's go.
Talk nerdy to me. Talk nerdy to me.
We're sitting in the Geek Easy cover band's playing, and drinks are poured, and we are ready to get our nerd on. So Charlie kicks it off.
I will, and I'll do a little two-step here, because I already talked about Amazing Spider-Man in the last segment. I'm back reading that Zeb Wells. At least his first arc, I thought was pretty. I was even telling April about this. I thought the first arc was pretty awesome. It was a very standard, fair Spider-Man like gang war, gang fighting kind of thing. It was the Tombstone versus the Rose, but Tombstone, I don't know, somewhere between his initial appearance, which was in the late '80s, and now he's like Hulk level strength. He absolutely beats Peter Parker's face into like a pancake. He like puts bruises on him so big that his mask is like bulged out and stuff. So it was really weird. Like he punched him and had him in chains and then was just beating him so that he had blood all down. It was actually quite visceral. But it was kind of an interesting storyline. I remember this from the last two things, that one I remembered and one I don't, from the last time I was reading this, is that there's an ongoing storyline now. Tombstone and Robbie Robertson, who's another heritage Spider-Man character, grew up in Philadelphia together. They had a past together. Robbie actually ended up doing a short stint in jail for not coming forward when they were in their youth and confessing that he watched Tombstone commit a murder.
It's Creed 3.
It was Creed 3, except for Tombstone wasn't the hero in this case.
True.
But anyway, that was, well in the past, however you calculate time in comics. Anyway, Robbie has a son, Tombstone has a daughter, they fall in love, they get married, and it turns out through that, Tombstone and Robbie have made peace, so it's not Romeo and Juliet, thankfully. But Tombstone does capture and just absolutely beat the snot out of Spider-Man and then trick him into ending this gang war between his gang and the gang of the Rose, who is another 80s heritage, a Marvel villain, who's Richard Fisk, who's the son of the Kingpin, who Tombstone tricks Spider-Man into capturing him. So kind of a cool arc. Again, really weird to see Spider-Man's face kind of beat to a pulp. The other thing that I'm missing, and I suppose I can dig a little bit, and I feel bad for not remembering, in one of those issues, and like I said, I think I'm on 4 or 5, the issue's kicking off. Mary Jane is putting a young girl, one would assume her daughter, to bed, and the Black Cat creeps into through her window, and they have a conversation. And I'm like, how did I ever miss that Mary Jane? I mean, you could say, oh, this is her niece, but the kid looks just like her. But she and Peter in 616 chronology never did end up having a kid, although in other chronologies they had Mayday Parker, who became the Spider Girl, in the What If / MC2 continuity. Remember that from back in the late 80s? We had Avengers Next.
Juggernaut person.
Exactly. So I totally didn't remember that. I'll keep reading, but again, the bit that we had with Zeb Wells, and doing this Kamala Khan thing kind of rubs me the wrong way. Secondly, super quick, I did see for the first time ever, flipping through, playing roulette, trying to like, hey babe, let's watch a movie, and I found 1977's Smokey and the Bandit with the classic Burt Reynolds and his laugh. I'm not going to talk too much about it, but Todd was having a fun time singing to me Burt Reynolds co-stars Jerry Reed's one of my favorite Eastbound and Down, gotta keep on trucking. And then because he wrote and sang and performed all the songs that you hear. And again, Smokey and the Bandit is about two bootleggers that have to get from Atlanta, Georgia to Texarkana, Texas / Arkansas with a truck full of Coors beer. And I looked into this, that
What?
Coors beer.
Really? That was it?
That was
God.
it. Coors beer only had a survivability of a week, even refrigerated. If not refrigerated, it would spoil and be thrown out. So that's why the movie had we had to get there in 28 hours or whatever. So it was
people are just going to drink the beer like, we've got it, now we're drinking it all in one shot.
I'm just going to sit down with 50 of them. I actually thought the dialogue was kind of fun and punchy, so that really made it stand out to me. But finally, the real thing that I want to talk about besides Spider-Man is on May 4th over on Peacock, which was in the series, it was dubbed The Cock. I always call it Peacork, but Todd hates that because that
didn't drop on April 20th.
No,
or April 20, 420.
Yeah, 420.
That would have been more sense. Yeah.
But yeah, Todd always ranks on me for calling it Peacork because that was from 30 Rock. But it's a Bupkis starring Pete Davidson, and it is a semi autobiographical take of his life, and his life in the headlines, and especially in the last several years. But it's great. The show kicks off by saying the following is a dramatization, names and people have been changed, blah blah blah, and they say, Bupkis, like the old expression in
Nothing.
In Yiddish parlance to mean nothing. The show stars Joe Pesci as his grandpa, who is unfortunately dying of cancer. His mom is Edie Falco from The Sopranos and Nurse Jackie, several other things. Pete, of course, is the star. And then it's his sister, who's an actor I'm not familiar with, and his group of friends. But it's all about his misadventures. It's 8 episodes long. It all dropped on May 4. And it's fantastic. It's fantastic and it's hilarious. And some of the stuff is super obvious that it's things that actually happen. Like one whole episode is about how he spent Christmas in Canada because he has a bit part in a movie where he was excited. It was a Vietnam movie where he was going to meet Brad Pitt, and it ends up being Brad Pitt's guy they filmed from behind him, a guy who looks like him when you don't see Brad Pitt's face.
Sure.
In the final episode, Pete ends up in rehab, and so it's all about that. And the end of it was a big shocker. So totally recommend it, Todd. I'm not going to tell you.
Did Pete die?
I can't tell you that
Because
I can't.
Is there a Pete stunt double? Like there's a Saddam Hussein stunt double?
Yeah, exactly. Now I will kill you until you die from it. I would highly recommend. I would highly recommend going to watch this one. This is, Pete Davidson is a wild character. And April turns to me and she says, Pete Davidson is if you take away the fame, even looks the same as our son Nathaniel, who just always managed to get himself into wacky adventures, and they look quite a bit alike. So that's funny. So Pete Davidson is like my son.
Really? I was gonna say, yeah. I guess the hair thing, the
hair thing, and just the stuff he got himself in, that he's gotten himself in and out of in his youth. Oh my goodness! But anyway, yes, top recommendation. I would say go watch this. And
so,
eight segments at 30 minutes each. It's an easy watch. We watch it in a couple of days.
So, did you ever watch Curb Your Enthusiasm?
I watched a couple episodes, but it's another one of those.
Because that's exactly what this is, Charlie. This is Curb Your Enthusiasm, because that's exactly what it's about. Larry David being Larry David, and it's hyper,
dramatized. Yeah,
dramatized. I mean, the things Larry does that is just so dumb, and it's like, it's a great show. I mean, it's a fantastic show. And you're like, Larry, don't do it. You're good. He's like, Larry's going to do this thing. Don't do the thing, Larry.
And all of Seinfeld was an extension of Larry David, wasn't it? Kind of the same kind of stuff.
Larry is George. I mean, that was the creation of that. And then, he brought in, there was a really good arc that I just saw at the very beginning. Because I missed a couple of seasons. So I'm kind of starting from the beginning.
That show went on forever, and didn't it stop and start as well? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like Ted Danson plays himself in it. It's like a version of Ted Danson that's just hilarious. And
it's like there was a season in Californication when I talked about that, where Rick Springfield comes into play a very dark version of himself. So it's just like, oh
yeah. So I would say if you want something fun to watch that you might not remember much, Curb is great. In the early episodes, though, you can tell it's done on video because it looks horrible when you look at it. And the modern seasons look good, but it's fine. But you see, like, it's because it started like 2001. So, and it's still on today now. Like they have the next seasons coming out.
Really?
So it's continued. I don't know of a show that's only had 12 seasons and lasted.
Larry David has been in the zeitgeist for almost 50 years. I mean, he's been around forever. So anyway.
Well, I could go on about it, but a great show. So you watch Curb Your Enthusiasm. It still holds up. It's really hilarious.
Go watch Bupkis first. It's over on Peacock.
Sure. I'm curious now.
Yeah,
okay.
Definitely go check it out. All right. What do you got?
So just one thing for me this week, I was been trying to read more comics, and I saw this one that popped off the Marvel Unlimited app, and that is HellCat. So HellCat is one of those characters that you've seen before. You probably don't know much about her. She was in the Defenders. I mean, she's got a long history. She was married to Damon Hellstrom, and she has pseudo supernatural powers, which I'm not really sure how they're supernatural. I don't know. But she has a long history, and she's been around since the 70s. And she has I don't know if this is her first solo book or not, but I don't know.
No. Well, let me ask a question. When was it? Modern, or did you go back a while to find it?
No, this is a brand new drop on Marvel Limited. March 2023.
Yeah, she definitely had a book in the past that I know I feel like we read and talked about, but I at least read it because it was all kind of tangled in with kind of that satirical, like She-Hulk became a satirical character, Squirrel Girl's a satirical character, and then so is HellCat. So I know that I've read one, but like 5 or 10 years ago. So not the first time around, but anyway.
So this is a new series just launched on March 15th of 2023. So now it's free on Marvel Unlimited, so you can read it there. And it's by penciler Alex Lins. Christopher Cantwell is the writer. And apparently she became a big part of Iron Man. Like, she dated Tony Stark and they had a relationship most recently. So it's coming out of that, where basically they kind of reintroduced her again to the world. She's now living on the West Coast, living in a demon house haunted by the ghost of her mother. And that's the thing. It's kind of it's kind of interesting. But she's basically, in this one, she's being accused of murder. They find a person basically mutilated, and they think she did the crime. She escapes. She's trying to find somebody that can help her to solve her innocence. And she goes to, you'll love this, Charlie, deep cut, Sleepwalker. Remember Sleepwalker, that Marvel character?
From the 90s, Sleepwalker, yes. Darkhawk, Speedball from the New Warrior. Oh, all the New Warriors too, damn.
Yeah, so Sleepwalker was a guy who essentially would fall asleep, and his alter ego, the Sleepwalker character, which was essentially, green guy, would kind of like Dead Man or one of those type of characters, would go out and like fight the supernatural and things like that. Well, their Sleepwalker is in this in a unique way. And then Damon Hellstrom actually shows up in this as well. So it's a fun book. And Patsy is not exactly in great mental health. She's got a lot of issues, but she's just trying to make it through. But obviously being, I guess, having a murder that you might be accused of that you didn't do isn't going to help your mental state. No doubt. I only read the first issue because that's all that's there. But I liked it. I thought it was like, hey, it's a character that I didn't know much. It didn't take me much to get up to speed. I thought the art was good. The story was well told in a 23-page setting. I think it was pretty interesting, especially if you've never checked this character out. So I don't know if this will last very long, because quite honestly, if I'm only checking it out on Marvel Unlimited and I was just barely interested, I don't know how people are picking it up off the shelf or buying it digitally. So that's a challenge with a character that is probably good, but probably won't get a fair shake.
Yeah, it's funny, single issues there was, and Ty, you even shared it on our Discord, and I was aware of it months ago, but the current issue of the present run of Iron Man was a flashback to the West Coast Avengers, when I was like, oh God, I really want to read this. I don't want to wait. And I did pre-order it digitally, and I read it this week, and it's the first like 2 pages of it, and then it's still set in the 80s, the rest of the story. But the West Coast Avengers are not in the rest of the story. So I'm like, no, you got me, because that's my favorite Avengers title of all time, which I've talked about before. So anyway, well, that's cool. Yeah, so it was more of a serious take, less of a satirical take. Not like
correct. It's not the tongue-in-cheek, goofy, making jokes, self-referential. This is a standalone story about her, and it's, I don't know, they'll probably resolve this part and it'll go elsewhere. But I liked where they brought in some extra character. I'm like, I know that guy. It was like the Leonardo DiCaprio guy with the meme.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, pointing at the TV. Exactly. Well, that's cool. I like that, and I love things that dig into the old timey character. So I'm curious what Squirrel Girl's doing these days, kind of title wise, because that's one that my wife really loves it, and we subscribed to it, and it was not long after the whole War of the Realms or whatever, that thing that we read that was like exhausting, that I think Squirrel Girl kind of went away for a while.
Meme character, kind of like, just was at a time it thing, and then it's kind of like, oh, okay.
It was like the B Sharps, the what's hot and what's not issue came out, and are we hot? We are not. That's what happens. All right. Well, cool. That does wrap up our time in the Geek Easy. Time to skip out on that bill yet again. I can't believe that they actually still let us in here, but you know what? Whose fault is that? Definitely not ours. Got to get out that Air Qantas app. Time to get our coach tickets down to the land down under. Fame and fortune awaits in the Thunderdome. Tina and the Mutants want to hear all about our take on this fantastic movie. Let's go.
Welcome to another edition of Thunderdome!
We're sitting in the Thunderdome where the mutants have been gathered for a topic of their game to be entertained. This week we're talking Fast X. So thank you, Tina, for letting your mutants be subjected to this movie discussion.
I got pretty riley about it. So, Todd, now this is a series. This was a classic one that you said maybe a couple of years ago, and you heard me talk about it, and our former collaborator, Rich, this was another one that we talked about when Fast 9 came out. Was it 2 summers ago, back in the summer of 21?
2021, yep.
Yeah, it was the last time one of these came out. And that's kind of when and this is one that like my mom really loved it. And this series goes all the way back to, I think, 2001. So I think that this is entirely a franchise of the 21st century. But we're up to the 10th film, Fast X, which was dubbed by the wags over on one of my favorite other podcasts that do go on, folks. Fast 10, your seatbelts. I'm sick of that one.
Everybody's called it that way, Charlie.
No, I think they coined it. But anyway, yeah, what it really was, as you put in here, was Aquaman versus Groot, the movie.
I should say Aquaman, because Alan Rickman was Aquaman.
Oh, well, we'll put a Z in there. Aquamans. Is that a good compromise? All right. What are the specifics here? Let's break it down.
Okay, here's your hard cold facts about Fast X. Budget of $340 million just to make the movie, but obviously you've seen the advertisements are everywhere. They are probably doubling that in marketing
globally.
Exactly. Yeah. So directed by Louis Leterrier, who has made, I think he was like the transporter director, things like that. So he's the guy you get when you can't get the guy you really want.
We were merely Frenchmen. Didn't he direct the Ed Norton Hulk, or am I thinking of somebody else?
It might. Yes, I believe it was Louis Leterrier who did. So part of the MCU, but Fast X is not part of the MCU, folks. Sorry. We're not going to get into that.
They'd like to be. But anyway.
Yes. Then the cast. Holy cow. Oh, and by the way, Justin Lin was going to be involved in this movie. He quit like halfway through. That's never a good sign. Good sign. But he gets credit though for the screenplay, which I wouldn't put my name on that. I'd put like what is the fake name you put on?
George Glass.
There you go. Put George Glass on it, not your name, because you don't want to be known as this. But we got Vin Diesel, aka Groot, Michelle Rodriguez, aka Tough Latina, Tyrese Gibson, aka Model Man, Chris Ludacris Bridges, aka Raptor, like a rap actor.
No. I thought it was Rapster. Oh, no, it's just or rap guys. Rap guys and sweaters.
It's a Raptor because a rap actor. John Cena. Peacemaker, Natalie Emmanuel, which was the Game of Thrones lady that fell in love with the worm, Jordana Brewster, she's Vampire Cop co-star, which was a TV credit in The Rookie Feds. Love it.
She was in a show called it was a TV movie, like miniseries called The 60s. Back in like the early 2000s. That's the first time I think I ever saw her in anything. But.
She was in the Faculty. That was her breakout film. She was supposed to be like the big thing. Yeah. Nothing ever happened. Yeah, she's basically been a Fast and Furious actress. Then Sung Kang, he was the fifth brother in Obi-Wan.
Right.
Scott Eastwood, the son with no name, like the man with no name, because Clint Eastwood's son. We don't know what he's done. Exactly. Danielle Melchior, Ratcatcher 2.
Oh, that's who she was. Okay.
Alan Rickman, Jack Reacher, and formerly Aquaman on the CW.
He was too tan in this movie.
God, yes.
Why was he so tan? I didn't.
His timer didn't go off, Charlie.
I guess I didn't like it. It really bugged me. His scruffle beard and his tanness were distracting me. But anyway,
he's great. Yeah, he was also in Hawk from Hawk and Dove. Helen Mirren, Oscar Lady Fast, because Fast and Furious. So she's a lady. She's been knighted, and
bringing the credibility. Brie Larson, her role in this was just I didn't get her. I didn't get her whole vibe. It was very bizarre.
Captain Marvel, she was also playing Mr. Nobody's daughter. No, Mr. Nobody was Kurt Russell. Right. There you go. Then we had Rita Moreno EGOT showing up in this for no reason, that she was the grandma.
Right. Your grandma's coming out. So which one of the letters does she get for being in this movie? Probably Oh my God!
Best grandma. The G is for grandma, Charlie.
That'd be GG, greatest grandma.
Okay, and then Jason Statham. He's in between Meg gigs. Jason Momoa, Aqua Drago, so Drago, Cole Drago, and then Charlize Theron, Oscar Furiosa, because she got an Oscar and she's Furiosa. So I think we've handled this well.
No white dreadlocks. That was a big plus.
Exactly. So I'll just give you this for anybody who's new to the Fast and Furious, like me. I only saw 5, and that's the only movie I've seen.
Right, because it ties right back to this one.
Exactly. So getting you back to speed, Dom Toretto and his team are requested by the agency to steal a computer chip during its transit in Rome. Dom and his wife, Letty Ortiz, stay behind with his son, Brian, Little B. Marcos, while the rest of the team travel to Rome. Wait, who's Marcos? Who's Dom is Toretto.
Little B's biological mother is the older sister of Ratcatcher Girl. You probably didn't catch that.
I did not know that. And she has the last name of her mother?
I guess so.
That's interesting.
I don't. You know, add us over at Secret Friends You on Twitter if we've got it wrong. But that is because April and I have watched all the movies because my mom was a fan and somehow got us into watch them, which is so weird.
Well, it had to happen between 5 and 10.
Yeah, it did. No, well, I mean, look how young the kid is because I think the movies are supposed to happen in real time ish. So yeah, I mean,
I don't know when 5 happened when he met her. I didn't know they were that tight. To be honest, I couldn't remember that they were romantic at all.
That's not even taking into account that, Letty had a supposed death and then came back from the dead, but had amnesia.
Were he and Michelle Rodriguez on a break?
That's what I'm talking about. Letty, who's Michelle Rodriguez's character, apparently died.
Okay.
Very fuzzy. She was gone for a while. She came back, but had amnesia, and she was bad, and she got her memory back. This when she and Don got married. But the kid, I think he had with the older sister of the Ratcatcher actress girl who's in this movie. I'm like I said, Twitter, please bring me up to speed.
Charlie, I believe you. I think that's true. We'll go on.
I think that's correct.
Yeah, so while the rest of the team is going to Rome to do this heist, that night a wounded Cypher, who is Charlize Theron, arrives at Dom's house, informs him that Dante Reyes, who is the son of drug lord Hernan Reyes, has turned her crew against her and is using them to target Dom in revenge for his father's death. Little Nobody takes Cypher into custody, who that is...
Scott Eastwood.
Well, Little Nobody is...
Mr. Nobody is Kurt Russell, who doesn't.
Well, yes, I thought Little Nobody was
not appearing in this film. Little Nobody is Scott Eastwood. The sister is
Little Nobody is Alan Richman now.
Oh,
yes, because he's Nobody now.
Okay, all right.
No, Scott Eastwood, just Scott Eastwood.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I thought that was supposed to be Kurt Russell's character's son, so I got that wrong.
Nope. Okay, Nobody, because he's still the head is called Nobody. So yeah, takes Cypher into custody, but reveals there is no mission in Rome. So there we go. You're up to speed as far as I was because I didn't see these movies. Right. This is tying everything back, and it's like the one last score. They're going to get these chips.
Every movie starts with. This is it. I mean, in the last movie, you had Letty and Dom living in the country somewhere and raising their kid, and then the crew came along and they were like, we got this one last score down in Honduras or something, and they're driving around in Jeeps and blah, blah, and then it turns into a whole thing, and John Cena was the villain in that one because he was Don's long-lost brother, and in the time in between, now that he and Dom have made up, now Uncle Jacob is tight with Little B, and which is why they have their arc in this film. So anyway...
Everybody becomes friends. Enemies always become friends.
Well, everybody becomes family. But you can't, family, according to this, is the opposite of Pokemon. You cannot save them all. That's kind of where we end up, yeah.
And there's family members that I didn't even know they were family. So, the racing scene in Brazil with the one guy that was which was part of the family that I don't remember him. I'm sure he was in a movie that I didn't see.
Never forget, they will continually find ways to infer that Paul Walker's character, Brian, is alive and a part of things.
Correct.
They will work very, very hard.
And his daughter apparently was involved in this movie some way, but I don't remember how. Yeah. So there you go. So Charlie, there's a lot of plot in this movie because it seems like 85 things are always happening. We've got subplots, things are going here, things are going there. We've got random cars just showing up, how they show up very fast, very furiously arriving. And these are supercars. These are like everybody has a kit.
Right.
And that's kind of what it is.
I mean, Dom's car in particular, during maybe the end of the second act or the beginning of the third act, when he and Little Nobody, basically Jack Reacher, have teamed up, and he drops the car out of the back of a C-130 or whatever it is, and it lands on two other cars, pancaking those cars, but Dom's car is completely intact. I mean, it's spectacular. And his car always has a hidden grappling hook, and there's always plenty of NOS because you flip the switch, and so much
nitrous oxide.
So much NOS. But yeah, it's absolutely incredible. So, I mean, yeah, you're right. I don't know where to go with this.
I put some plot points down there, Charlie, because when I called out some dumb things. The way, folks, I'll be honest. If you love these movies, take it for granted that I'm just having fun with them because I don't have a connection to these characters.
We're totally having fun. And again, April and I, at one point or another, have seen all the movies, and we absolutely take it for what it's worth. If you're a Patreon, you've listened to our Bad Trip to Movies for the Cartons, the show that April and I do together. We like sending up movies and having a good time. But I'm also a very firm believer in I never want to yuck anybody else's yum. If you are a steadfast, diehard lover of these films, please just take this. What we're going to talk about is just that we're having a good time. But love what you love. Absolutely. We are not,
absolutely.
We're not being honestly critical because we're just having fun.
And some people have like an emotional experience. Maybe they went with their father or their kids or something. And it's a point in your life. I totally get that. But you have to imagine from my perspective, I'm like, I'm just going in as a guy who is judging this movie for what it is, not your emotional connection to it. So that is, so yes. So with that out of the way, Charlie, So the first big plot point is the team has to, so Dom has to help and Letty have to leave to save the team. All these things have happened because Dante, apparently,
Aquaman,
who had none of his dad's money, apparently was able to secure a lot of money, and he got a lot of tech from Cypher to essentially be the mastermind who is crazy. He is like the Joker from Batman 66. That's the best way I kind of configured it.
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned that because at one point they're going through his dossier and it reads almost exactly like Jack Napier's dossier from Batman 89. Oh, he's got an aptitude in science and chemistry, but he's socially unstable. And I'm like, he's Jack Nicholson is the Joker. That's 100%.
Oh, I thought he was like more like Cesar Romero.
Well, exactly. And cross with Cesar Romero because he goes back and forth between acting very effeminate and then acting very devilish and scary and malicious. And he's got his nails painted funny and he's just very
non-binary, very fluid with his gender. He's fine with being, and he's goofy and funny.
He's a sociopath because he's sitting there at one point with two dead bodies and talking to him.
Oh God, that part was actually like, whoa, they went there with that fat guy's face. Yeah. So definitely this movie was all over the place in tone.
Big time.
But I didn't get the tone shifts because at times they're like, this is not even feasibly like reasonable to ever happen. But then we were going to take it seriously. Like we're angry at people and I'm going to get you. And then at times it was just silly and goofy too, where they were intentionally trying to be silly and goofy.
Here's the real test, and I've been practicing the last couple of days. Give me your very best Vin Diesel.
It's all about family. That's horrible.
You have to talk, and again, this is a benefit if you're on YouTube. You have to look up, maybe turn your heads up 3/4 of the way. You have to squint. And you have to move your head very slowly left to right, backwards and forwards. And I noticed one point, there you go. When he was walking out, you can't see me because I'm sitting down, but he had his hands balled up and then he looked like the strong man as he's walking and he was mad because he had found out that Alan Richardson's character has double-crossed him and it is working with Aquaman. So the Aquamen become the Aquaman squad at the end. I mean, the conclusion of this film is spectacular, but we don't have to jump there real quick.
No. And it's funny because you talk about, I think Vin Diesel's kryptonite is sleeves.
Right.
The dude never wears sleeves.
Well, you have to see the meat display. It has to be you have to be at the gun show. But all right. Well, let's blast through some of your notes. So the bomb and the pinball bomb.
Oh yeah, so Dante's controlling basically this. There was no chip. It was actually a bomb in this truck. Now they have captured the people and locked them in the big truck that's holding this bomb. They find it. This bomb is comedically large and looks like something that Batman would be carrying out of the facility in Batman 66.
Oh my god! It keeps coming back to that.
Yes.
I'm gonna watch that movie later because I think it's a spiritual cousin. So you see the bomb very comically roll through the streets of Rome. Dom manages to stop it so it at least ends in the Tigra in the river. When it blows up, the damage is minimized, but then it becomes enemy number one, and he's on the run, and the whole team is on the run because the rest of the team.
Charlie, I've got to go back to that bomb though, because it was like ping pong. It was like pinball or ping pong.
And he would run
with
into it.
Dom's
and change
car.
course.
Once again, his car is like more powerful than physics itself.
Right. Like I was talking about when it was pancake and things was getting dropped out. It was his
it's
car.
Ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, it's just absolutely unbelievable. So yeah, we do that. The whole team then has to retreat to London, which is because they're trying to get access to the God's Eye, which is the super piece of tech. And that was from a prior film.
Oh, and Letty gets tossed in jail because she's the only one that gets found out by the agency.
Caught. And then when she's in jail and it's at an agency black site, and then she's in jail with Charlize Theron, who was, also had her injuries healed. And then the two of them have a super big fight, but then they figure out they're on the same side when Letty goes up the panel and opens the hatch, but they're in the Arctic. So they're not going to escape.
But Charlie, the best part of that whole sequence is when Brie Larson comes in to talk to Letty and does the, you know what? You never let anybody talk to a prisoner. Never let him because
they're always going to give him something. They're always going to give him a key or whatever.
She punches her with this like thing that stabs her, and she allows her to basically get out of there. But they say the one thing that I just love, and I'm like, no one ever says this when they're talking to each other because it's being masked what they're saying. Letty goes to Charlize Theron. Game recognizes game. No one says that crap. It's horrible.
They do in the movies and things that are otherwise. Yeah, nobody really says that shit. Nobody ever recognizes somebody else's game. You know what? People are too insecure. They're too insecure to recognize somebody else's game. But yeah, anyway, okay. So the apart from that, the main gang is in London. That's when we get back again to Bupkis, Pete Davidson. This guy is in everything. He really does, and it's funny because Bupkis was reflective of that. He has a lot of different roles, and one of the episodes talks about basically him filming this bit, or the episode is kind of based around that, and it's very fast. The episode is very Fast and Furious centric because there's a whole sequence in there, but I won't spoil it for you. But yeah, he runs a cyber cafe, which is still a thing.
Has a fax machine, and
and the gang needs it, but it leads into a fight between the Raptor, Luda, and the other dude. What's it?
Roman. Yeah.
They have a fight that I don't understand, that Roman at the end of it throws dust at people.
I think that's from wrestling or something, but they don't even have a real fight because it looks like they're doing slap fight.
Yeah, exactly.
But they're potentially like capable fighters, so I don't get it.
And then they end up hugging it out at the end. So it's all good.
And then the one guy, I forget what his name is. It's Sung Kang, that actor. He plays
Han.
He's Han.
Yeah, Han Solo, who's supposed to have been dead and died. And
yes,
and you find out the second one is actually the fifth one because Tokyo Drift one is set in it's a whole
so
thing.
Lame.
Anyway.
Yeah, so part of that Pete Davidson bit is he is going to charge them for the snacks. And by the way, there's muffins that are leased with probably cannabis or something. So I call them skunk muffins. And then you've got Han takes a bite anyways, and he starts seeing things. I'm like, what was the point of that? It was like, is that like somebody's one point to be funny? Pete Davidson?
Yeah, it didn't really go anywhere. So let's talk about John Cena's role in this. Now, again, he was the villain in the last one.
Yes.
And they obviously, at the end of it, he joined the squad. Now he's charged with taking care of Dom's son. And in doing this, now this was my favorite part. In doing this, they have to get on a plane where they're going overseas to escape the agency. But in order to escape the plane, when basically you see John Cena walking onto the flight, he's carrying what
a kayak.
You're assuming it's a kayak, but it's stored perfectly in this commercial airline, which also has a bomb door a la Dr. Strangelove. And
absolutely.
When they open it, as they get in it, they're able to power it by having a couple of little cocktail bottles, which can help them create
with vodka. Yeah,
with vodka. And then basically what drops out is it's akin to those weird little planes you see in the first Captain America movie that they're able to, like I said, they're able to bomb drop out of a commercial flight and then fly to the ground.
Has wings that deploy rocket engines.
But you got to remember that obviously Jacob Toretto, John Cena's character, was a super criminal and tech guy or whatever. But again, I
was going to say onto that because I really want to say that John Cena and Jason Momoa were the best parts of this movie,
without a doubt.
I mean, Jason Momoa just knew what he's in for. He's like, I'm just going to go crazy, do whatever.
Chew that scenery. And same thing with Cena. Just like in Peacemaker, and what really made that great. So we're inching ever closer to the third act. Dom, the last one before he finds out, that Jack Reacher is betraying him, which I mentioned, because he and the other Aquaman are in league. We get Dom, and they're down in. This is not when they're in Rio. What's the final setting of the third act? No, I can't remember. I don't know. There's somewhere. Well, I think it's back in Rio because we're back where
probably
it all started.
Probably was.
Yeah. Dom has this car that is, as I mentioned earlier, is able to slide out the back of a cargo plane or a C-130 or the like, smash two other cars, and this is also where two helicopters try to take him down, but he's able to, from jumping from one highway to a subsequent highway lower, fling them into each other. At this point, Jason Momoa's character has kidnapped Dom's son, but Dom is able to sidle up to the side of him, and his son is able to jump over back into Dom's car. So Dom and his son end up together at the top of a dam where Momoa's like, this is where I wanted you all along, because two fuel trucks, which are remote controlled, smash together and make the dam explode. But at that same exact moment, Dom jumps the car and flies down the dam as the flames are found. This has got to look great in IMAX. I didn't see it in IMAX. The flames following him, and then they jump off at the end, and the car is able to land in the water.
Oh, Charlie, even better than that, though. As the car is almost on fire, what does he need to do? Put on the nitrous ox, the extra supply he has.
The NOS, which is not flammable. That's great news.
No, and then he doesn't blow up. He's blowing the flames up, and they are going away from him.
So flames can become can become reverse flammable.
He blew up the flames. He blew up the flames.
I knew this. So they launch in, and then we're right at the end, and they pull themselves out. Oh, and also, I'm sorry, the rest of the crew is arriving, but that's when we find out that Alan Richardson is the bad guy because he launches a missile, and he hits their C-130, and it goes over the side of a mountain where it explodes. And also, I'm sorry, same thing also happened to John Cena's character. So we think he might be dead because he exploded in order to help Dom and son escape. So it looks like all is lost. Aquaman says he's going to blow up the dam, and Dom and son are standing there. Then we flash back to the Arctic, and Charlize Theron and Letty are finally walking away. They got suited up and they're walking the Arctic. And this is brought from another movie because they've had this before. An Arctic submarine pops up and the door flips open, and boom, it's Gal Gadot's character who supposedly died in a previous film. She was romantically involved with Han, and she supposedly died in a car crash in that film. But here she is working for Charlize Theron, and boom, credits roll.
And got a nuclear sub.
And got
Where the hell did she get that from? I called it a not so invisible sub because, like, Wonder Woman.
Yeah, exactly correct. Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yes.
So credits roll on this 2 hour and 31 minute film. Wow, a lot of stuff.
I don't know how many times I laughed in this movie, but I laughed more than I probably were supposed to.
April and we openly heckled, and I told you we were in row three or four, and in the row in front of us there were two guys who brought their own Coors beer and were drinking it, and they were
from Smokey and the Bandit.
How do they? And then I went home and watched Smokey and the Bandit. It was very subliminal. Yes. We were, we were openly heckling this movie, and again, we saw it at like 5:15 on Thursday, so the theater was very empty, and so I don't believe that we were disturbing anybody, but we had way too much fun watching this movie, and it's okay. I think it's okay. I think that's what it should be. We were entertained without a doubt.
Yes, because I did not laugh at the parts that they wanted you to laugh at
because they're not funny.
They weren't funny. And then I laughed every time something was supposed to be over dramatically serious or like so intense. So it was supposed to be like riveting.
Right.
And I just like, I just couldn't stop laughing because I'm like, this is the dumbest thing out of the world. Or the shots they made, the slow motion, or the kid jumping from car to car, or when John Cena died, I'm like, that is the least believable, like touching death I've ever seen in my life.
It completely lacks any substance or drama in the way that they wanted to. It's cartoonish. But that, again, call it what it is, and that is subtracting, as you said at the beginning, anyone's personal emotional involvement. Like, my dad loved these movies, and he died during COVID or something, and it's very sad. And so when I go to see these movies, I think of my dad, or they
deserve better.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sorry. But I will say of this, Todd, without a doubt, I was entertained. I I don't know if I was entertained by the things and in the fashion that potentially the producers wanted us to be. But in the end of it, they got my money, and they'll continue to get my money because, April and I will go see Fast 11 because this is, and I read this earlier this week, this is the first part of a 3-part story.
Well, that's not been confirmed by anybody except for Vin Diesel. I think he's trying to pull
he's trying to pull a rock. Oh, Todd, we didn't even say that was one of the stingers. We're bringing back
one stinger, right?
Yeah,
one stinger. Yeah.
We saw Statham's character of Shaw. He's Shaw. And then we saw the Dwayne Johnson's character of Hobbs. So they're both back in the mix, even though there is very public on-screen bad blood between Diesel and Dwayne Johnson. But he's bringing his character back. So we could look at but again, if Vin Diesel is coming back and trying to be, The Rock saying, oh, Black Adam is the beginning of everything for DC. And then when that movie, S-ed the bed, it was not. So I don't know that I would say this movie really S the bed. Domestically, we're looking at maybe 60 million. But these things overseas are indestructible.
They're big. Yeah.
Yeah. Just like the Transformers movies, you know what I mean? So I just, I don't know. We would have to sit down with a flow chart to look at the previous 9 movies to see what those
they
really
peaked at like. They peaked at 7.
Okay. Oh, as far as, and then they're on a
budget,
downward trajectory. Okay, so I have little doubt that there'll be another one because I think people still enjoy him and they like, and there's such a focus on this of being like, this is the Mr. Worldwide of films. We're in Rio and then we're in the Antarctic and then we're in Korea or back in LA and then we're doing this thing. So they try to make it a global affair, focusing obviously on a global audience. So, in the end of it, Todd, I think it's almost pointless for us to try to rate this because we can't really rate it along the trajectory of the way we rate other films.
No, you cannot because this is not dumb fun for me. This is like just dumb. And I found my own entertainment. This movie did not entertain me in the way that I wanted to be entertained. I entertained myself through what they provided.
I would still label it as dumb fun. In essence, that it's very stupid, thematically speaking, but we had a blast watching it. And, and maybe it was the experience of watching it with another person who April and I have a focus on seeing movies all the time. And sometimes it's the dumber, the better. Like, it's date night. We go out, we have dinner, we go see a dumb movie, and then we have fun talking about it. But
this is an airplane film, if anything. That's the best. I mean, is it an airplane film? Yes, it's an airplane film.
To quote a Simpsons parlance, it's a movie for a rained out ball game. You know what I mean? Something to put on because there's nothing else to put on. Back in the days when that's all there was. So, All right. So, I think any final thoughts before we wrap it up?
Charlie, if you wanted to have fun with this movie, I think it's really the drinking element, which I could not do in a theater because I did not bring any Coors Light with me.
Oh, the Coors Light? Yeah.
Exactly. But this would have been perfect to be like every time they said family, take a drink because you would have been bombed and just enjoying anything at that point.
You might not have walked out of the theater. You might have had Dom have to come pick you up and then drive you home. And I do love the movie began in the parking lot of Dodger Stadium with Dom teaching his son to do doughies in broad daylight. And the kid is like 10 years old. So that's cool. He's above the law. We're good. I mean, he's always been an outlaw, right? So I guess that ends up being
that's the thing. It's like in this now this squad is a team and it's like they're like used by the government. I just don't understand it.
And that happened quite some time back.
Oh, yes. I love it. That's why my last part was like Dom says, "You didn't take my car."
Oh, yeah, exactly. Right.
Like what?
You
oh
did
my
one
God.
thing. I love it how your Dom Toretto sounds like Batman. You didn't take my car.
Sure. It's almost as good as what's her name? Gamora's or not Gamora, Gamora's sister. Blanking on her name.
Nebula.
Nebula's voice. Nobody complains about Nebula's voice. Nebula's voice is just as bad as Batman's voice. Talking like this. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's wrap it up. We will leave this without rating because it truly cannot be defined, in my opinion.
No.
But with that, Todd, we do draw to a close. Thank you, friends, as always, for joining us. We do want to thank our Patreon supporters one more time. Please visit us at patreon.com/secretfriendsunite to check out our offerings. We would love to have your support. in that fashion if you'd like to hear more content. But if you don't, please give us a rating, presumably 5 stars, if you continue to listen to us on a streamer of your choice. We do see that, and it does help make the show more visible. Todd, where do people find you out there?
At Teoxtra is my main place just to check out what I'm up to. I do want to call out the fact that our YouTube page, though, check it out. Our YouTube videos are great. I love them. And this episode of number 300 or 100 for the for Code 47, I made the craziest video I could ever come up with because I had 5 people, lots of screens, so it looks like the Brady Bunch. And oh my goodness, it's a lot of fun. So check it out.
I will admit, and we had a great time making that. And special thanks to Todd for helping me out that and assist with that one. We had an audio glitch early on, and Todd fixed it. So we did have to post the episode twice. I have not yet watched the YouTube video because it is very long. It was me and 4 other people doing a head-to-head bracket challenge, which again was Todd's idea, of the top Star Trek episodes of all time spanning the series. So it's pretty fantastic. Please check it out. Plug. But you can find me over on Twitter at the C3 is my handle. Spell it out. My wife April and I do run the USS Grand Petoskey. It is one of the largest chapters of the International Star Trek Fan Club in the world, and here in the States in particular. I also run Region 13, which is Michigan and Eastern Canada. I just got a promotion last night. All of us regional coordinators now have the rank of Commodore. So you're talking to the Lionel Richie of SFI right here. I am the Commodore. Very proud to represent Commodore. She's a brick house. But anyway, find us on a website. Find us across socials and at a website of thereabouts name. If you're a Trekker and would like to be connected with other Trekkers in your community, I am happy to help. With that, I will say thank you again for joining us. Sharing is caring, and to keep on trucking.
Be the hero, not the villain.
In a truck.
Too fast, too furiosa.
This podcast is part of the Secret Friends Unite podcasting network. Visit secretfriendsunite.com for more great shows, articles, news, reviews, and more. Secret Friends Unite podcasts are available on Apple, Google, Spotify, and other podcast services around the world. If you'd like to be part of the conversation, you can join us on Facebook or our new Discord server, or follow at Secret Friends U on Twitter. Please subscribe to Secret Friends Unite on YouTube and visit our merch store at tpublic.com. Just search Secret Friends Unite.